What is up, YouTubeville? Welcome back to Sawmill. My name's Bill. This is Pirate Solutions Forestry. Gotta just putting the mill away for the day. Want to go over the hydraulics that I just installed, the extension. Talk a little bit about a couple things on them, what I like, a couple things I don't like. Suffice to say, right now I'm really happy with them. The first couple of runs with it, when I was just a simpleton and didn't get it, it was frustrating. But now that I'm getting more used to it and I understand a few things a little better, definitely happy with it, and happy that we got the extension on here. And I'll show you the whole setup in a second. I got to pull this band off. Brand new Silver Tip Turbo 7, and all I had to do was edge stuff off today. I'll show you that too for the trailer order. I know that this is gonna be hard to hear me because I'm off mics, but I didn't feel like going all the way to my truck, and I just was gonna come out and clean up. Brand new Silver Tip Turbo 7, and edging a freaking board, I hit a nail in the corner of a board. So the band's still cutting fine. However, I have two bands up at my grinder that to be face ground, and I'm just gonna throw this one in with them, and it's just a simple little 12-minute, just barely grind it, and it'll be right back to brand new. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to wear out my Turbo 7s because I'm shifting over to all Stella Cut bands. So I'm really trying to get some run time on my Turbo 7s. If anybody from Norwood watches this, I got a question for you guys. See if you've ever run into this. Sometimes when I'm milling, and I guess it could be some build up on this band wheel or the way that this wheel loops. Sometimes when I'm milling, I lose contact with this roller bearing, even with this guide roller. Even though I've got down pressure on it. Really strange. Now, it does only seem to happen, I think, with the Turbo 7 bands. I don't really completely understand it. And I've measured, and I still got good down pressure and the whole 9 yards, and there's no play in this, and so it's really weird. Doesn't seem to make any flat spots on the roller. It's almost like the way the band's coming around, it's deflecting down a little bit. I don't know. But if anybody from Norwood watches this, let me know if you've seen that problem before. It's still cutting really beautiful. It's still cutting true to dimension. I'm not having any problems with the way that the sawmill's cutting right now at all. See that brand new freaking band just nicked a piece of metal. It's like, I bet you can still read the writing on this one. Maybe not. Oh yeah, you can still read the writing on it. You can still see the Woodmiser Turbo 7. So I mean, that's how new this band is. And like I said, still seems to be cutting good. I have to cut tomorrow to finish this order over here. I do see one thing. I am in, well, it's hard to tell without a band on it being tension, but it does look like my clutch is in a little bit, riding against the inside of the tensioner. Like I could pull the clutch maybe out a hair. I'll have to check that out. I did just get a company, don't know if I can mention who, sent me a clutch to test for this. I just got it today, and I am going to run that on here a little bit. I don't know what difference. I'll have 3 different clutches when I start running that, but I'm not going to blow this all out because I am going to run tomorrow to finish up the trailer order. And I don't have my blower handy. We'll go over, I'll show you some of the lumber that we cut for the trailer order. And then we'll go over this the hydraulics here and my setup and how I set it up and what I like and what I don't. You know, I think that one thing that makes people trust me and maybe ask me to test things, well, like these mechanics gloves that I absolutely love, these prototypes, is that I give an honest opinion. So here's what I have cut so far in the trailer. You can see how everything's tagged. So I all have B's and C's and D's and E's and F's all over this stack here. This is all stickered. I think I made a mistake here. I don't think I can get my forks all the way through that. That's going to stink if that's going to be hand loaded. We might, with a couple of guys, since it's only 3 high, be able to pull out the back 3. It's actually 4 high in the back, but we'll move those. We could probably pull out the back 3 and get the whole thing. I will cut them a couple of extras. This one's not a perfect. It's got some wane on the other side of it, but it's a really nice board, so I'm going to throw it in. I'll throw in a couple of extras. I'll show you the cut list here and where we are, at least where I think we are. I'm going to take it in and add it all up tonight for total board feet. So if you look at this list, basically what we have is we have 4 hydraulic ramps. And they're big, huge ramps, and they scissor. So there are 2 at 68, there are 2 at 63, and they scissor out. There's 2 on each side. I've got to cut a bunch more of the 63s and a few more of the 68s. We're almost done. I need 10 of each. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 7 of these cut and only 2 of these cut. I have all of the lumber to span the 18.4 section in the middle, but it's only 31.5 inches wide. So basically it's 5 rows staggered. They want to stagger them. They say it makes it easier for them to replace the boards. So they didn't want 18.4 boards, which was nice. And then we have an 11.2 section at 26 wide and an 11.2 section at 26 wide. All this is cut. This little 2-foot section where they all run like this, that's all cut. This 8'2" section, these boards actually run sideways, and it's 4'6" to cover, so I'm cutting these at 6 inches. It's actually going to be a mix of 6.5, 6s, and 5, and I had to cut some at 5 7/8 or something like that to split a couple boards in half. I have 6 of 9 done here, so I have to cut an 8-foot log, it looks like, and hopefully get some of those stupid little 5-footers, 6-footers out of the way with that. I cut everything that I had lying around that was 2 inches. I did not cut those 2 pieces of trash, but I'm going to. I think I might be able to get some of these out of those. But I do have to cut an 8-foot log for just 3 pieces. So I'm sure that if I cut a little girthy 8-foot log, then I will get enough here and probably enough to finish that too. There's just going to be some waste. It sucks. Let's get on to the hydraulics. So I'll show you how I set it up. Now go back in my videos and watch if you don't understand what I have going on here. But my mill is 24 feet long. I can cut 20 foot 7 inches. And what I've got now is a mixture of manual clamps. I used manual clamps all today while I was edging, so I didn't have to listen to that thing, since I'm standing them up and flipping them over and everything for just edging, and that works out great. I kind of have these where I think it makes the most sense, because what I want to do is be able to cut a variety of different size logs. I can cut 3-footers right here, and I have 2 clamps. Then we've got a 4-foot and a 4-foot, so all my hydraulics are in an 8-foot span. So if I get 8'6" logs, I can use the hydraulics to clamp them. And then I have a section down here where I can cut 6-footers and have 2 clamps, and I can actually level it with that roller guide. So it gives me an awesome little variety here of what I can do. Now on the dinky little logs, and you're going to turn them by hand anyway, so it doesn't matter, but anything bigger than 8 foot, I've got the full setup, which is perfect because that's when you're going to need it. Things that I don't like. Well, let's start with this. I don't like the way that the diagram goes up, over, and up. So if you look at the log turner here, you're more likely to see where that is and grab this over grabbing the handle that is way over here. The other thing I don't like is that I need to label a couple of these. Most of it I have worked out so that, you know, to put my clamp up and down, I can pull up on this and push down on it and it'll go up and down, and to put my rests up and down, it's push down and pull back to make them go up. This one I know that I push in to make it go out and pull it out to make it go in, which is got to be labeled on here because I'm bad at that. I always turn the log turner backwards. And I'm going to have to make some sort of label here with a Sharpie so I can do that. And the log turner itself, and when you push forward it goes down, when you pull back it goes up. That kind of makes sense to me. I'd like it opposite, and maybe this one's sticking out, so I want it to go up. I pull up, that makes it go down. So I would maybe swap those 2 fittings and put this in this orientation, so when I pull up it goes up. That's nitpicky. My tank did come damaged. They set something heavy down on top of it and actually bent that gas cap. I don't really care about that. My hydraulic tank seems to leak from this filter housing, and I did check the bolts and they're tight. Not sure on that yet. I'm going to keep an eye on it. The amount that they said to put in it's nowhere near enough. So if you put one of these in, it's, you know, and Dave Boyd says put 3 gallons in it, just you got to put 3 gallons in it, run the whole thing, and then probably put another 3 gallons in it. I put almost 5 gallons in this and I'm still not full, because of having to fill all these lines. And of course mine's long, so I have all extra little 4-foot extensions on everything to get it to reach. The other thing I don't like is that the location of these is over too far, so that you can't interferes with that angle. So you can't cut super deep. That I don't like that at all. If this is all you had, you'd be in trouble. You'd have to put a backer board in to cut your 8 inches deep. And as you're cutting down boards, when you want to rip through a bunch of boards, you can't go very deep because these are over this way too far. On my manual log clamps, when I put my speed, let me grab my square here. Right now, I have these manual clamps lined up with that one. But to get this to cut, so that it doesn't interfere with the angle. The edge of this, with this clamped on the rail, has to be over 6 3/4. So you can see I'm a full inch from being over far enough, and this is lined up with that right now. So these, it would be great if they were another inch over, or if there was some, I don't even know how you would do it. Maybe if this stop, this is a little hard stop that sticks up just a little bit, which is great. If that was an inch wider on both of them, it would solve the whole problem. Then when you're cutting a cant, you can go down deeper. So if this extended that way 1 inch, it would solve the whole problem. Because I think, just looking at it, yeah, I'm over 5 3/4 right now. And at 6 3/4, that angle under there doesn't interfere. It's right at the top of the angle. So that would be a fix. It would be getting that to be in a little L and come over that far. That would completely solve the problem. The other thing I don't like is this needs a roller. My mill, the hydraulic turner turns logs so much easier against these than it does against these. And I think I'm going to end up drilling and tapping and putting a ball bearing on here. And you just have to be very careful of how you orient that ball bearing so that it doesn't stick out this way and make you unsquare, and this way and make you too high. But I'm sure I could figure that out. I've got a whole bunch of chainsaw ball bearings inside that I'm sure I could get one to, you only want it to stick out of the radius just a little bit this way so that the log rolls against it. So I think I'm going to do that. The other thing I don't like is that those don't have any adjustment for square, and mine are not square. They're really, really close, but they aren't square. So I can't count on those for a square cant, and I can't adjust them. So that's another thing that I don't like, how you can adjust these with the set screw on the front side down the bottom, if you could see it. Yeah, so if you look right at the end of my square right there, that set screw right there is made to adjust this in and out. So you can adjust this to square, so when your cant rolls up against it, it's square to the bunks, and these don't have that. So that's another issue. I haven't figured out how I'm going to deal with that. I think what makes the most sense is to leave one hole good, just right where it is and round, and then you're going to have to wallow out the other holes so that you can rotate around one hole to adjust it. And the only problem with that, like I was talking to my wife the other night, and she just laughs at me and she says, "You'll come up with a fix." The only problem with that is as you're banging logs into them, I think that they'll move, because if you wallow the holes out and rotate these over, you need a hard stop. So you almost need some sort of set screw or something welded on here so that you can push this in and out on the bottom. Don't know yet, but I want these square so when I roll up against them, you know, I know that I'm square. So you still have to check it. So that's another thing that I'm not crazy about. Oh, there's Danny. He's hunting in the slabwood pile. Danny, you be careful over there. Those aren't all like steady and stuff. Other than that, I'm really, really happy with it. When I first tried it, I didn't think it was going to turn really heavy logs, and I was kind of bummed out. I'm saying, why do I even have this if I can't turn heavy logs? And then the other day when I turned against those with those rollers with a really heavy log, it turned them like nothing. No problem. And the other thing is that you got to kind of figure out where you want this thing. I think in a perfect world, I would move, and it requires me moving my feet too, but I've moved that bunk over a little bit and move these over so they're more centered between the 8-foot span. I'd like everything to move at least one hole this way. Because of the position of the motor on the turner, that makes it so that I can't put it on this side, which is, it would be great if I could put the turner right here. Now, I do see the way that this motor's mounted. I could pull those bolts out, and it looks like it's made so that you could mount it on the other side. So that's a possibility. Then I could move this whole thing over here on this side of the bunks. Because if I could have that here, it would be perfect. The only problem with having that here is maybe your visibility of the clamp. So that might be a problem. Yeah, that would kind of stink. If you had it up and you wanted to move your clamp in, you wouldn't have any visibility of the clamp. So that would kind of stink. You know, these are all things that you got to think about. I mean, you kind of need the clamp on this side of the turner, on this side of the turner, so you can see the clamp. It's more important. And I don't want the clamp way over here. And I can't move. I wanted to mount that clamp over one more hole, but those 90s interfere with that bunk. So I think really the only thing that makes sense is to move that bunk over and then move both of these over a little bit, and they kind of have to be the way they are, because you don't want that turner coming up in front of the clamp and not being able to see the clamp. Having the extension on here is like heaven on earth. It gives me so much more room when I'm cutting to get my saw head out of the way. I did move this. I put this bunk one hole over that way more than the old one, so I can now, I have like, instead of 3 inches to cut out, you can see that black mark right there? That black mark right there is where my band used to cut out versus this bunk. That's all the room I had. But I moved the bunk over a whole hole, which is 6 inches. So now I have that distance, which is about 3 inches, plus 6 inches. So I have 9 inches of clearance where I can to hang the log over here. So it makes it so on a long log you don't have to be so precise, because it's a pain in the ass when you put a, you know, if let's say that you cut out at reasonably 16.3, you cut 16.7, but you got to put the log up against a band. So I say 16.3, but to cut 16.3, your log has to be inside that black mark to cut out of it. And when you're talking about a 16-foot log, it's not super easy to position it perfect. You know, it's kind of a pain. So having that extra 6 inches is going to make a big difference down here. I am using the roller toe boards to level logs. I haven't even realized the benefit of being able to move a log back and forth on them yet. It is nice to have a big cant on there that I cut through and being able to lift it up so I can get my forks under it. That's really nice. That's a big benefit to whatever's on the mill. Just being able to raise them both up so you can get the forks in here without bumping into anything. And that's another problem with this setup. I used to load everything with my forks. Well, with all this stuff in the way here, where you're cutting most of your logs, it's tough to load with forks in there. The last couple of logs, I actually load them with my log grapples on my bucket, which look like that. Those are like 36-inch timber tough log grapples that I attach to the cutting edge of my bucket, and then I can pick the log up and put it on, so I don't have to worry about getting in there with forks and really bending and screwing something up, because obviously with a 10,000 pound machine, you know, if you get your forks in on top of something, something's going to give, and it ain't going to be the machine. So overall right now, pretty happy. The one thing I have to figure out, and I have not yet, is workflow. I'm not crazy about having my sawhorses out there I need to be able to walk around the end to change bands and stuff like that. And I want to be able to walk through there, but they're kind of far away from the mill because most of my cutting's down here now. You can see I had those 2 sawhorses over on the side over there so that when I had to edge, I could just put stuff up there and then throw it right back on the mill. Those are going to go away because my log loader is going to go over there. And hopefully when I get the box for the log loader, I'm missing a couple of parts, and I get the log loader installed, it's going to make it easier over here to get stuff off and get stuff back on. The only thing that I see as a big problem is if you look at Sawdust Mountain over here, and right now it's all frozen, but if you look at Sawdust Mountain over here, Sawdust Mountain's going to be on top of your log loaders, and that stinks. I can't put my log loader on this side. I'm going to be stepping over it and walking over it. That's just not going to work. So, I mean, if I was fully automatic, where it was driving the mill too with an auto power feed and everything, then I could see having the log loader over here. But the way that I work, the log loader needs to be over there, and it's going to end up in Sawdust Mountain. So that's going to kind of be a pain. When I come in to clean this out, you're going to have to lift it out of the way, and then you come in and clean it out and put it back down. I'm just going to have to stay on top of this area more than I used to. Obviously more than I am right now. These are going to go away, but they're frozen in the ground right now, so I can't move them. I'm afraid I'll break the feet because they're plastic. So hopefully the end of next week we're going to get a little bit of a warm up. I love the way it all installed, and their instructions and everything, and the hoses being tagged and all that. The way that the hose is tucked away, I love all that. You could do this whole project, installing this whole thing with all these. If you were really humping at it by yourself, you could do it probably 3 or 4 hours with no problem. I really like that. And I do believe that if this is all you have, so if you order your mill hydraulic and you don't have any manual clamps, I would get them, because I could easily use another set down there, or maybe next to the turner there. I don't think you can have enough of them. They're so convenient for positioning and being able just to throw something up there and go manual really quick, and not have to run that thing. That I would recommend anybody who is getting a hydraulic mill to order at least 2 sets if you're standard length, 3 sets if you're long, of the manual clamp system, because it makes it way easier, guys. I'm telling you, way easier. So that's kind of it for now. We got cutting up the butt to do, and I got logs piled up there, customer logs that I got to cut. We got some really big sycamores to cut. That's coming up next. Then we got a bunch of spruces to finish off. That's going to be next after this trailer gets out of here. Then we've got a bunch of black locust 4x4s to cut. Black locust and white oak, because I don't think I have enough black locust. That's why all this is stacked here. These are this is a 4x4 order for a farm. Some of these black locusts aren't going to be any good, and whatever I'm run short on black locust, I'm going to do in white oak. So I pulled all my small logs down here to do that. And then I got an order from a farm. Well, I'm waiting for a cut list, but a local farm, real old farm, called Bourne Farm. You can look it up on the internet. It's pretty cool. We take the dog there to go for a walk. Really neat old buildings and stuff like that. The caretaker there, or the on-site carpenter there, who's real traditional, kind of like me, he wants to build a double black locust gate, so he needs a bunch of black locust stock, and we're going to be cutting some of that too. I'm hoping that I can manage that out of stuff that isn't going to work for 4x4s here, get enough boards for him. But yeah, that's all firewood there. I'm cutting through that and splitting it as I go. It's a mix of locust and maple, white oak. There's some red oak in there. There's some black locust in there, but it's just a mix of really old logs that I am cutting through and splitting for in the house. And then I got Danny. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put this mill to bed for the night and get ready to do some more tomorrow and hopefully finish up this trail order so we can get paid. And God, I hope we can figure out a way to get in there and pick that up with the machine so I can load it for them so they don't have to hand load that whole thing. But it's going to be really simple for them the way that I tagged it, and I'll give them a copy of my list here, and everything has a corresponding letter on it to where it goes. So all they really have to do is get their stagger length here, and these are supposed to be 11.2, but I cut them 11.6. So they just got to square up the ends, cut them to 11.2, drop them in place, and then the same thing down here and up there. You know, everything's cut a little bit long. Most of the small stuff that I cut square ends on, so they have a square end to work off of. So it should go pretty quick for them. I could do it myself with a circular saw, a drill, a couple of bits, and a driver. I could do it by myself, and it would take me 2 afternoons. One day to get it all laid in, and then one day of going there and just being on my knees all day drilling and putting in the decking screws. So I'm sure they have 4 or 5 guys. They got a big, huge company. So with 4 or 5 guys, they'll be able to knock it out pretty quick. One guy cutting, a couple guys fastening, it'll go fairly fast. So that's pretty much it. I am going to do something with this guide. I don't know what yet. I don't like the amount of flex there is in the bracket that holds it on. It's just not a good setup. I am going to do something with that bracket. I haven't totally committed to looking at or figured it out yet. I just know that it needs a gusset in it. I would like to weld something onto it so I can have an up and down adjustment on it. I would maybe like to, I really like the other one that I had that fastened through the top. Maybe I will use that bracket that fastens through the top and maybe weld it and tie it into that bracket and maybe cut it off so that they weld together, and then it has a set screw in it or something like that so that it attaches through the screws on the top like the other one did. That was way more rigid, just it didn't have all the cool adjustment on it and stuff like that. So we'll figure that out too. And once I get that done, I'll be gold. I'll be in a really good spot. I just don't like how flexible that is, and I don't trust it. If you bang something into it, it's definitely going to bend. And you know, as far as cut quality goes, cut quality's been good, so I can't complain about that. And if you're not running Stella cut bands, you really need to, guys. I know it sounds crazy. If you've got an underpowered mill like I do at 18 horsepower, grind them to 7 degrees, you'll be thrilled with them. Go back and watch my videos on doing it. I absolutely love them. I love them. Way more happy with those than I am the standard bands. They cut so much flatter and so much smoother. They're so much more durable. They last way longer. I mean, you're talking about 10 with one grind 10 times longer with one grind on the Stella cut bands. So you can cut 3,000 board feet without grinding if you don't hit metal. You can cut about 400 board feet with a standard band before it starts to get dull and starts waving all over the place. That's almost 10 times. With one grind on it, you're talking about, I've gotten out to, you know, over 5,000 board feet on a Stella cut band with one little face grind on it. That's a lot. You're talking about, you got to grind that other band 10 times to do that, and you can't. They'll break before that. So if you're not running the Stella cut bands, you need to. The cost is nothing. At 40 bucks, it's zero. So that's it. We're gonna get the mill put away. Really happy with this new extension, how it laid in here, how level it is, how easy it is to level it, how it all went together, how much more room it gives me to work. The mill still just glides along. I'm going to clamp it down, get my tools put away, get Danny in the house, and feed the wood stove because it's probably getting a little hungry right now. And we'll get back at it tomorrow. So I want to do a video on kind of reviewing the hydraulics. You'll get to see them over and over and over again. But that's kind of it for now. And for Danny and myself and Norwood and Lawrence Lynch, this is Pirate Solutions out.